Thank you very much. And let me thank you for being here and being part of a wonderful record-setting event. We have a record number of delegates, and we have also a record number of sponsors. So thank you very much for contributing to this very successful event for ATP. I'd like to talk about three key ingredients to ATP's success: people, ideas, and certainly change. I get up here every year and I have to say the same thing. Lauren Scheib is unbelievably amazing. And I like to say it one more time. And now we've been fortunate enough to add to our staff, our very small staff, we've added Pam Patel. And Alan Thiemann could be our historian. He's been here since 1988, and he's fabulous. In designing events, they are the benchmark of events companies. They are unbelievably special. And they always have a very special AV company called Icon. They are great. But we also have in this wonderful hall the most important and the most dedicated members of the testing community. That's you. Because of you, we have moved from North America to Europe to Asia, and we're making real progress in terms of our efforts in India. And because of you, we are beginning to see ATP gain recognition as having an international presence. It starts with ideas, and our members come with lots of ideas. And those ideas have been able to be the focus and the energy for developing our activities on a world basis. At the beginning of 2012, we were in Madrid doing a conference on public sector assessment in the future. Came back to North America, did innovations. Decided we needed to go back to Europe, so we did Berlin and had some of the most fantastic keynote speakers engaged in the Berlin conference for us. And before the year ended, we were in Asia having our very first conference, the Asia ATP conference. So once again, it's because of you. Our mission is to advocate and to educate not only our members, the testing community, public policy individuals, but to basically be in the forefront of informing those who are involved in the process and the enterprise of testing. We advocate and we educate, but we can't do either of those without you being engaged. With you becoming engaged and actively participating in ATP, we have been able to make a number of very successful and prominent advances in terms of ATP as an association, in terms of the testing community in general. Test security. Our test security activities are now considered to be some of the most prominent and some of the most important test security activities in the industry. And when we talk about best practices for large-scale assessments in the K through 12 space, we have become a premier player in articulating what the best practices are. Our conferences, they're wonderful places to network, to communicate and collaborate. And this particular conference, the Innovation Conference, has been able to do this each year with unbelievable growth patterns since for 14 years. Once again, it's because of you. We need you engaged, but we always need you engaged because this is almost 90% of a volunteer organization. We have one of the smallest staffs for an organization that does as much as it is currently doing. In fact, wasn't too long ago, someone said that if I had to benchmark what a small staff association should look like, ATP would be one of those benchmarks. But to get you involved in terms of engagement, we need you to step up and be part of our committees, our standard committees, like the Security Committee or the Standards Committee that looks at test standards that could affect our business worldwide. Special interest groups, we're beginning to see that becoming much more an area of value to our membership. And we want you to really take a look at how special interest groups can be a way of getting involved in terms of what ATP does. The individual projects that I've talked about, like white papers and writing articles for our journal, those are things that help educate and inform our community. As our speaker this morning talked about, change is a big part of ATP. It's a very big part of ATP. We're global because our members are global. Our members have reached around the world, and we, trying to represent our members, have also reached around the world. And we want to make sure that as an association, we're helping to define how science and technology is going to work to better our assessment process, to better the way that we provide information to students, workers, and individuals who are trying to better themselves. Leadership. We have great people in terms of our staff, but leadership for us is ATP being a leader, one of the leaders in the industry of testing, whether as part of the delivery of tests, development of tests, but being a source, a resource, and an important part of championing the testing industry. With leadership comes responsibility. And for us, we need to make sure that each one of you are giving us feedback. We're no different than a test taker. Every test taker wants feedback. They want to know their scores. We want to know our score. We want to know how well we're doing and what we need to do it better for you. So let's work together and focus on being in the forefront of the changes that are important in terms of our industry. Because together we will, and we will continue to be, the intelligent voice for testing. And thank you.
Please welcome Drew Wiley.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. I am happy to see that we do not have any blackouts yet. And so far, we've managed to hit the key benchmarks for us. Before getting into some of our work, I do want to mention and thank all of you for coming to this year's conference, becoming part of the ATP community. Because really, it's this ATP community that, for me, has provided just an excellent opportunity and a really great opportunity over the past few years to meet and work with a lot of different people in our field. And so I've had a lot of different roles within ATP over the years. And I think one thing that I would mention and that I would want all of you to be aware of, as I've gotten more and more engaged with ATP, the reward of working with ATP has just continued to grow. And so that's why when you hear us keep talking about volunteering and getting engaged, it's because for all of us, the reward has been so great. And so I'm just encouraging all of you to consider getting more involved. And so what I want to review with you a little bit today is what it is that ATP engages in and what kind of work we're doing right now. And so over in 2012, our Certification and Licensure Division conducted a survey and asked our members, okay, what areas can ATP provide you information for? Or what areas can ATP provide you assistance in? And not too surprisingly, when you ask people in our industry, where do you need assistance or what work could be happening, the quick reaction was, well, there's a lot, and there is more work than we can possibly do. But I want to talk a little bit about a few of the areas that seem to be of particular focus for people. And so G has already mentioned security, but certainly security impacts us all and obviously is critical for us moving forward. And so with the new ATP Security Committee, or I guess not new any longer, the ATP Security Committee, we've actually provided a forum now for people to come together and talk about best practices in the security area. And we're having, that opportunity is kind of critical for all of us moving forward. The security group conducted a survey last year, and tomorrow morning, if I remember correctly, they're actually going to have a session where they're going to be giving an early readout of some of those results. And in the next few months, we'll actually have a formal report talking about what they found, the best practices that they found. And so I'd encourage all of you to kind of keep your eye out for that report from our security group moving forward. In addition to security, again, G already talked about how ATP is going global. And so we've had great success in Europe. We're continuing to move ahead with Asia, moving ahead with India, and just like all of us, or just about all of us within our daily jobs, our organizations are going global. ATP is right there with you and in the process of going global along with you. One of the other areas that we frequently hear people talk about is the idea of best practices or the idea of benchmarks. And so can you give us information letting us know what we need to do as far as benchmarking test development practices, benchmarking test delivery models, and things like that. And so we developed the Operational Best Practices publication, which came out just a couple years ago in conjunction with CCSSO. And as G mentioned, it's actually really becoming an industry standard. People are increasingly using it. It's actually being used right now in some of our work within India, as a matter of fact. And so this Operational Best Practices document has been a really useful and valuable publication. And so if you are not familiar with it, I would highly encourage you to move ahead and grab that as soon as you can. Along those same lines, one of the other areas that we hear about is, technology. And that's just kind of that global statement of, okay, how are we going to use technology in the development of our assessments? How are we going to use technology when we deliver our assessments? And so what we're doing right now is actually we are hard at work at the next generation of the Operational Best Practices, or Operational Best Practices version 2. That is admittedly a rather boring title. I think we might have to work on that one. My only idea so far has been a good day for operational best practices, but we'll see if we can come up with something better. Then the Operational Best Practices version 2 is going to be focused solely on technology and its role in assessments. And so again, there'll be critical information, benchmark information to help you identify how can we use technology to better deliver the tests across a wide variety of modes. How can we use it to develop our assessments in a more efficient manner? And so we're actually going to be releasing the draft version of this best practices in the next few weeks. And so please keep an eye out for it. We'll be releasing it for public comment, asking people to kind of take a look and give us feedback. And so please, I'm encouraging all of you to kind of keep your eye out and get us that feedback to help us make this publication as valuable as we can. And I think one of the other things I wanted to mention was the Journal of Applied Testing Technology that ATP supports. The Operational Best Practices documents are designed to give you resources to help you do your daily job. The journal is designed to do the same thing. When Chad Buckendahl and I were talking about this a little while ago, I think we kind of acknowledged that there's a good chance that when we pop this slide up, for at least 50% of the audience, most people's reaction would be, I didn't even know there was a journal. And so I think the low profile of our journal is an area that I think we want to focus on over the next year. When I take a look at the journal and I look at what's in there, I think Chad has done a really, really great job getting some interesting, compelling articles in the journal, but I don't think it has the profile that I think it really deserves. And so over the next year, we're going to be working to try to see if we can increase that profile of the journal moving forward. Just being completely honest, I don't know exactly what we're going to do to move in that direction. And so I would ask all of you, if you have ideas or if you have things that you think could help, please grab me after this session, grab me in the hallway, and tell me what you think might actually be of assistance in this direction. And so we have the journal, we have the operational best practices, and as G has mentioned, I think the other area that obviously helps us all, gives us more information to help us do our daily job, is this conference itself. And so just walking around the conference, you're able to see the emerging technologies, you're able to see how people are solving these problems. And I think this conference is such a valuable experience. And so I would just kind of wrap up by basically encouraging you to kind of dive into the conference, enjoy the beach, and go from there. And lastly, of course, to mention, please get engaged, get involved, because quite frankly, the more you get involved, the better it's going to get. So I mentioned engagement, getting involved. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a little bit of time to acknowledge some people who have been actively engaged in ATP over the past few years. And I'm going to ask Lauren to come up and provide some assistance. So the first person that I would like to acknowledge is Lisa Ehrlich. Lisa served as the ATP board chair in 2012 and has done a wide variety of different things. When I talked about operational best practices, Lisa has been instrumental in the development of those documents. And so over the past few years, I have been lucky enough to get to know Lisa. And I do want to mention one, of course, embarrassing and annoying habit that Lisa has, which is at every board meeting, Lisa comes in and she knows everything. She knows absolutely everything on the agenda. She understands it, knows all the documents. And while I was on the board, that was really valuable. But now that I'm actually following you, I'm finding that incredibly annoying. I wish you would have, screwed up a few times at least, set the bar a little bit lower to allow us to kind of get there. But it has been great, and thank you very much. And so please join me in acknowledging Lisa's work for ATP. The second person that we would like to thank for their time is Stephanie Dilley. Stephanie is another person who has served a wide variety of roles within ATP, and most recently on the board of directors. And so Stephanie has been involved, and I think she's slowly working her way up, I see. But Stephanie has been take your time. Stephanie has been a really great member of the board. I've always enjoyed sitting down and talking with Stephanie. She always has incredible insight on what's happening in testing, trends, and what's happening globally. And so I just want to thank Stephanie and acknowledge you for all of your hard work for ATP. What's that? Yes. They may be. We also would like to take a little bit of time to thank all of the outgoing division chairs. And so we're asking all of you to kind of work your way up so we can give you a plaque of thank you. Hopefully they are here. We'll see. The people that are coming up for the clinical division is Clay Ritchie. For education is Jim Britton. For the European division, it's Sue Martin. Unfortunately, Sue is not able to be with us today. And in her replacement is Garrett Sherry. For I.O., it's Joycelyn Hayes, and for security, it's Nikki Etchell. Thanks. Thanks, Garrett.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Maybe. No? Okay. Thanks. No. Okay. Next, we'd like to go through the ATP Awards. And this is going to be a lot of fun because we've got two incredible people here who we're going to acknowledge and thank for all of their work. The first person that we would like to bring up is Dr. David Campbell. Dr. Campbell graduated with a PhD from the University of Minnesota in 1960. And obviously, I think we all know his work through all of the incredibly well-known assessments that he has developed over the years. His Campbell Leadership Index, for one, his Campbell Interest in Skills Survey, and when you start thinking about that survey alone and you think about the sheer number of people who have used that, it's a fairly overwhelming concept and impact there. And certainly that would seem like more than enough. But in addition to all of his work working on those assessments, Dr. Campbell is also a senior fellow at the Center for Creative Leadership. And the center has the PEAK program, which is widely acknowledged as one of the leading executive development firms. As a matter of fact, for the past 10 years, the London Financial Times has listed it as one of the top 10 groups. And so certainly acknowledgement by someone like the Financial Times is very impressive. And so please join me in thanking Dr. Campbell for all of his time and work on the behalf of our community.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I get a chance to travel a lot, and I've recently been to China and India, and I found there was almost total absence of any infrastructure so far for the delivery of tests and surveys. This is a real marked contrast to the United States, where we have almost 90 years of experience in working with standardized measurements, starting with the famous U.S. Army program in World War I for the Army Alpha for selecting officer candidates. Through the years, an infrastructure has been developed that allows our society, through testing, to better recognize and develop talent, to help students make better career choices, to put a scientific foundation under therapy, to devise techniques to create user-friendly and productive work sites, and through the process of accreditation to have some control over the competence of people in various professions. It's a remarkable infrastructure that has been developed. And the infrastructure has been developed by the people in this room and your predecessors. There's no place like it anywhere, and it took us about 90 years to develop it. I'm proud for my meager role in all of that, and I'm flattered by the award. I would like to say a word about my career because it has a lot of relevance. During the Army program in World War I, there was a psychologist by the name of Donald G. Patterson. After the war, in 1920, he came to the University of Minnesota. He was on the faculty there, and he was there for 40 years. And Patterson was an avid advocate of psychological testing, to the point that there are at least 28 tests that have been published that have Minnesota as the first word. And the most popular one, or familiar one, or infamous one, is the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. Patterson retired in 1960. He's there 40 years. I was his last research assistant, and I watched him retire, and he shared all these stories about working in the Army 40 years earlier. And interestingly enough, if you take our two careers, if you take Patterson's 45 years of career and my 50 years of career, you've covered the entire history of psychological testing. And I've often been very grateful for having that historic perspective. I'm grateful to ATP for the award. I'm honored. And I want to thank ATP and Van Gent Publisher for making it possible for me to be here today. Thank you.
The second person we would like to acknowledge is Clark Porter. Clark is another person who has had just an amazing career, and you can read his complete bio in the program guide and be as intimidated as I was. And I've certainly been happy to say that I've gotten to know Clark over the past few years at the ATP conference. I've had a lot of fun conversations with him and have learned a lot from him. I have a list of accomplishments for Clark, which is too long for me to go through, but I do want to mention a few of them at least. Clark was a founding employee and president of the certification division of Drake Technologies, which of course is now Prometric. In addition to that work, Clark was also the co-founder and CEO of View, which has become now, of course, Pearson View. And then lastly, the thing I'll mention is because apparently that wasn't quite enough for you. Clark was also the co-founder and CEO of Integral 7, which has been incorporated into Pearson View as well. And so that's, for me, at least incredibly impressive, and I honestly do not know how you managed to pull all that off. At the young age of 40, that's what you told me, right? And so please join me in thanking Clark for all his work on the behalf of our industry.
Well, I am a pretty lucky fellow because in addition to loving my amazing wife who's here at the table with me and in Florida today, I also love the computer-based testing industry. It has been an amazing evolution, and I feel fortunate to get to come to work almost every day. I also feel pretty fortunate because I've been part of a technology revolution still underway that is really empowering our industry to grow. And if you look around and see the people in this room, I can share with you a little story that the first gathering we had of this group had 7 people. It was at Santa Cruz Operations in 1991. So that technology revolution has truly empowered us, and we're all playing such a significant role in it. I thought I would just share a little story about what I think is the very beginning of the computer-based testing industry. And that was the decision that NASD made to computerize their paper-based test. It was back in 1977. The thing they really wanted was to move from the fixed window schedules they had to an on-demand model. They didn't revolutionize how the items were written, but they certainly revolutionized how professionals went through the process of getting tested. They made the new model, call in the morning, make an appointment, take the test, walk out with your score result, go to work. Pretty fascinating in 1977. And I want to tell you there were a few constants, even back to 1977, we still deal with them today. NASD wanted really reliable and valid tests. They wanted their professionals to have convenient testing locations in the major metropolitan areas. And they wanted it to be really, really easy to use. So up on your screen, you're seeing a vintage Plato terminal. It was invented at the University of Illinois. It is a dumb terminal. Has 32 lines, 64 characters, 512 by 512 pixels, and a 16 by 16 touchscreen. This computer made it so easy to interface, this computer terminal made it so easy to interface with computers that even stockbrokers could do it. Huh? Pretty amazing, don't you think? It was connected over not the internet, but over a private communications network back to control data's near supercomputer class computer. And this computer allowed us to do an amazing thing for the NASD. It allowed us to generate random exams from a large pool of items, balancing the content across objectives, and ensuring that each form of the test was fair, that no objective was too hard, that no section was too hard, and that no test was too hard, one just like the other, and revolutionized the whole industry. It became a blueprint for how computer-based testing industry would evolve. So I want to let you know that there's a lot of change coming. The futurists this morning really painted a neat picture. It was all about the technology revolution. And what I realized it was all about math. So in closing, I want to do a little thank you. I want to thank Kirk Lundin and all my colleagues who have nominated me for the award, for the ATP board for picking me. I feel so honored because when I look around the room, you know, I am in a group of amazing, distinguished professionals, and it is truly a great honor. Thank you very much. Have a great conference.
That's great. Thank you, Clark. We'd like to wrap up today's session with a little bit of information about our Europe ATP division. And in order to provide that, I'd like to ask Garrett Sherry to come up to the dais to provide us that information.
So this is the really nice part of volunteerism. You get to talk about really cool places in Europe where we organize conferences. Before I go on, just a couple of words of thanks to my two predecessors, Sue Martin, who was acknowledged earlier on, and Erwin van Schaffler, who organized the previous two conferences that we had in Prague and in Berlin. And I've learned an awful lot from them. And to echo Drew's words of earlier on, they've set the bar really high, so I'm kind of a little bit concerned that my committee meets that bar for our next conference. So just following on the success of our last conference in Berlin in September, just gone, it was actually a bit like this conference here. It set all sorts of records. We had over 240 delegates from 24 countries. We had 3 superb keynote speakers. We had over 6 plenary sessions and 60 breakout sessions. And it offered a wonderful opportunity for delegates to share ideas and to network. And I think, building on the success of the previous conferences in Brussels, Barcelona, Prague, and Berlin, all cool cities, and now Malta, the wonderful island of Malta. So I'm looking forward to working with the incoming conference committee to design a really engaging and exciting program for those of us that will be joining. And I would like to invite many of you, not all of you. Our last conference was 240. There's nearly 1,000 people here. I don't think the island of Malta could cope with 1,000 people, but certainly we'd be quite happy with about 300 if it worked out that way. So those of you who might be able to make it, we look forward to you joining us in St. Julian's in September. And on behalf of the conference committee, I look forward to seeing as many of you as can make it within our numbers in Malta in September. So thank you very much.
And actually with that is a wrap. Please go, enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you all for attending today.